everybody, it is finally September 1st of 2022. It is unbelievable how fast time can fly, but here we are with another video, and this one is a little bit special. As you all know, or especially those of you that watch this channel, we do a lot of talk about the sun. And in this video, we're going to be talking about things that are actually around the sun. And yes, I'm not kidding about that. In fact, this image right here, I just wanted to show you because a lot of feedback from when we did post this video about the sunspots and coronal holes and the CME situation taking place with the solar flares. A lot of people were saying they had never seen a signature quite like this. Well, we are going to be talking about a few things that actually don't really have anything to do with the sun besides the fact that these anomalous objects are continuously being seen through our SDO cameras. And in fact, my friends, even going back as early as March of 2022 and even further, we have found some objects, some things. We don't know what these are, but they look eerily similar to what you think a ship would look like. Now, this one in particular had a lot of different channels going after it. This is not the one I'm going to focus on. I'm just giving you some reference as to what we have posted here on the channel in the past. And as you can see, these things are not coming from the sun. They are actually objects that are shooting next to the sun. In fact, this object you're looking at in this big black box after being zoomed in and enhanced is this tiny little sliver way up here, which clearly did not come from the sun based on the trajectory coming straight down in this direction. And yes, it was named UFO because based on definition, unidentified flying object. We're not going past that point, but there are some other things that we have discovered near the sun while doing research for things like those CMEs and different types of space weather that are very, very much making me question if there are in fact structures or types of ships out there around the sun. Now, this one in particular is kind of mind-boggling to me because after basic enhancements, and that means changing nothing about the image besides bringing out what's already there, you can almost see two separate cylinder objects. In fact, I do have this blown up again so we can look at it in even more detail with somewhat of an indent right there and almost taking the shape of some sort of triangle, if you can imagine that. Now, you got to remember these images are taken out in space, so we have a dark backdrop, and then in order to see these objects that are usually blinded out by the sun, that is when you start changing lighting and contrast. Again, that does not change the image besides bringing out what you can already see or what's already been captured. Now again, here is another enhanced version of that exact object. Now, I don't know about you, but it looks like it's almost reflecting sunlight at this point. It looks like some sort of cylinder object that just comes off in a different way than, let's say, some of this pixelation here. In fact, when you're looking at websites such as helioviewer.com, which we often use on this website, that shows our SDO camera. Now, right off the bat, you can't see anything really in the foreground besides the actual sun, and that's how these filters work. But when you actually take these snapshots and you analyze them and you enhance things, you can bring out a lot of different background information. Now again, with that knowledge, take a look at this image again and tell me it doesn't look like this is a cylindrical object that has different shapes or even attachments to it. Again, this entire object here is much different than, let's say, this little pixelation here or this pixelation here. But for all I know, these could be things too, but what I need to focus on is the fact that I feel like I am looking at something, a solid object that's floating in space next to the sun. And again, to prove to you that this isn't coming from the sun, this is the actual image taken from HelioViewer. It's a little distorted because of the effects I was adding to try to bring out different objects in the area, because in many ways, that's the only way you get to see these things. It's almost as if the screen is blacked out to avoid us seeing some of this stuff. But then again, hey, this may be nothing at all. I never like to sit here and claim that we are looking at UFOs or starships. It is nice to analyze this stuff, and it is exciting at times when you look at images like this, but just to show you on the bottom right here, it does say HelioViewer, and any one of you at any time can go do this yourselves and start researching these types of things. In fact, if you want to go find this exact moment on helioviewer.com, the actual date was on May 28th, 2022 at 16:07 53 seconds UTC. So basically, in a nutshell, we have a database that we can go back and look at and try to find these objects. It's a very time-consuming thing, I can promise you that. We have seen many of these things over the channel, and we're going to look at some older ones as well, but in many, many ways, this has been way too hard to pass up to not share with you. Because unless my eyes are playing games on me or I'm going completely crazy, there's a possibility that this could be some sort of triangular shape, and we just happen to be seeing this front end being lit up, because I can't help but notice the structure, or at least multiple sections of structures, and it almost looks as if there's an indent in that area right there. Here is another one I blew up before we go look at some of the other extremely cool ones we found, but it looks like there's an indent right here. It looks like another appendage or something connected to this cylindrical object, and then a whole nother section of it right there. Maybe if I zoom out a little bit, it's a little more clear for you to see. But the second I saw this object and I zoomed in, I did the little enhancements, it started bringing out the different shadows that would allow me to believe that we could be looking at some sort of solid object up there. Another popular sighting we made on this channel is actually right here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit while I'm talking to you guys, and I actually put this thing right next to the Earth so we can kind of get a comparison. It's hard to tell depth, but again, how could you not pass this up? It almost looks like two separate lights with two separate trails, and then you could see a single trail actually leading in this direction. So obviously this object would be moving from this way down into this direction away from the sun itself. And if we go ahead and zoom back out and kind of orient ourselves, it almost looks as if it just misses the edge of the sun if we move up in this direction. Now, I have seen these things light up and shoot over the sun itself, so sometimes it is hard to tell. For example, like we could see in a whole nother image we actually posted on this channel a while back. Right here, you could see the arrow pointing to this object, and if we zoom in the correct way here and orient ourselves once again, you could see that this one actually looks like it could be coming from the front of the sun, but we don't know if it's passing in front of it. We don't know if the sun is ejecting this particular object or whatever this might be. But the more you zoom into these things and analyze them and enhance them and look at what they are, many of them do have a structure type look to them. And again, we've been posting these for months, maybe even well over a year now. Anytime we see them, they're very hard to see, but if you're watching at the right time and you see those flashes pop up, I usually take snapshots, I'll save the videos, and then I will enhance them so we can then take a look at what exactly these could be. Now, I didn't want to take up too much of your time today on this. I did want to explain this and actually show how I got to these conclusions, because many people ask how I'm able to bring these out and things like that. So just so you know, here is an actual SDO camera view. These videos you can save at any moment, and it just so happens at this point in the video, which I freeze framed so we can see it, if I were to let it play, it's an instant flash and then it goes away. But again, these all have timestamps, and you could clearly see there's an object next to the sun, which again has a trajectory showing that it never came from the sun. It looks as if it's passing it. And of course, I've thought about the whole meteor situation. These could be space rocks, but it is images quite like this one right here that make me question that, because this is something entirely different than a streaking looking space rock. This actually looks like some sort of floating structure around the sun itself with different shadows and angles to it. Again, it almost looks like a cross section up in this area, and then something else similar up here as it gets brighter. In fact, this bright patch right here almost looks like it's mimicked from the left side where this patch is right here. It could be two sections on its own. Again, I may be getting too far ahead of myself here, but this stuff is super interesting. We will take a look at a couple more of these. Let's line ourselves up here so we can see exactly what we're dealing with. So take a look at this one. If I didn't know any better, this looks like some sort of propulsion that is clearly moving from this direction up here where my cursor is down, and then it almost looks as if you could see a structure around it, almost like some sort of craft or solid objects producing this trail. And then we have some little anomalies off here to the left. Those were a little hard to bring out. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with this actual object, but still, nonetheless, absolutely an incredible visual to see. And then, of course, once more, we will look at one of the coolest, most prominent captures ever. Again, you need to understand this image started way up here, so this thing was tiny. I don't even know how I saw it, but once I did, I found it on Helio Viewer. I began to move in on the object, and this is exactly what there was. Again, again, no change in the image itself. All we did was bring out what was already there. This was featured on many different UFO sites, third phase of moon, GoofOn, you name it. A lot of different people were trying to figure out what this is because I don't know about you. It looks like a string of lights wrapped around some sort of round object, and sometimes even zooming in a little bit makes it a little hard and distorted. That's why I have this version up here. And I don't know, my friends, I'm not sure exactly what we're looking at here, but there was no way I could pass up not showing you the new discoveries as well as comparing them to some of the old ones. My friends, I would love to know your opinions down below. I will be covering this giant coronal hole that is now making itself Earth facing. That will be launching solar wind directly at Earth, so that's going to be very important for us to pay attention to over the next few days. I appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to watch this video. Shout out to Canada. And once again, thoughts and concerns, please leave down below. All right, my friends, take care. Bye-bye. Stop right there, my friends. If you have not already, click that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Click all and you will get all notifications from this channel. And trust me, you won't be disappointed.